We are a little bit lag, a couple of seconds here, and we are live already here. Just let me get this sent to my official Facebook group. And if you are looking at us right now, I'm Viki Esther Chang, and you are looking at Singapore. You are with us at the Platinum platform. There's a podcast, and of course, you can catch us on Talk About Live podcasts on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and in the past there was Google podcast, but Google has taken out Google Podcast with the millions of content, with the millions of hours of content, and I think they axed the people at Google Podcasts. But you can find us at major podcast catchers, major podcast platforms, and I'm with you here. It is 9:05 p.m. Tuesday evening Singapore time. What a beautiful time we've got here in Singapore. You are looking in the background, Singapore, the skyline, the iconic skyline of Singapore. And I'd like to welcome all of you who are looking at us from the US, Singapore, India, Philippines, and wherever you are. Me, Viki Esther Chang, your dear co-host here, and also Alex Chan, my co-host. We're going to bring you through some of the major issues facing humanity right now. We're going to talk about AI and humanity, AI and society, and the impact of AI. And I was talking to Alex. The landscape changes by the nanosecond. It's kind of scary, Alex. So anyone of you who are looking at us in Singapore or the US, if you are in the US now, it is 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the morning, and it is 9 p.m. Singapore time on a Tuesday. We welcome you to come and join us and write to me at viki@gdneducation.com. Alex, tell us a little bit about you and your background before we dive into today's topic. And I have a little bit of a video clip by Elon Musk and Ted Cruz before we go into our topic. Tell us about you, Alex, 1 minute.
Well, I have another life, right? So, I mean, people who know me for a long time, they will know me as an armchair economist. So I'm in AI, I'm in tech and all this, but one of those things that I'm really in and I'm educated in, I did my master's, it was in economics. So today's topic, AI in economics, that's really, really my thing, right? I'm really into it because I used to be, number one, I think I would say that I'm an aspiring economist. Never got into one because I think I wanted to be an entrepreneur more than an economist, right? Looking at numbers and whatnot, right? So I sort of decided, okay, I did my master's and okay, I decided let's not go there. So I'm sure there are a lot of people who did the law degree or whatever degree and never gone to do law, right? So I'm one of those, right? That but I knew that whatever I do, I will be able to bring along economics with me. So it's been more than 20 years that I've since graduated. So today I think I really want to talk about
just economics. More than 20 years.
20 years. I mean, I did my master's, but a lot of things are still relevant. And what I'm going to talk about, right, is more than nearly 100 years, right?
Wow.
But I think what we can do pretty well is if we learn from history.
Yeah, so even before we start off, Alex, about today, I would like everyone to join us in a very short clip that I was watching on Elon Musk interview. Just a quick 1 minute.
And we're not doing enough.
Are we winning right now? Is America winning right now? And how likely is America to win the race for AI vis-a-vis China or anyone else?
For the next few years, I think America is likely to win. Then it will be a function of who controls the AI chip fabrication. The factories that make the AI chips, who controls them? If more of them are controlled by China, then China will win.
More of the factories that are making the AI chips. You think that will determine it?
Yes.
And how are we doing versus China on that front?
Well, right now, almost all the advanced AI chip factories, they call them fabs, are in Taiwan.
And what if China invades
69
Taiwan?
miles away from.
Yeah. What happens if China, if China invades Taiwan? What happens to the world?
Well, if they were to invade in the near term, the world would be cut off from advanced AI chips.
And
Currently, 100% of advanced AI chips are made in Taiwan.
How fast could we put that online in America, and how important is that for national security?
I think it's essential for national security, and we're not doing enough.
are we winning right now? Is America winning right now?
You just watched a little clip by Elon Musk talking about who wins the AI race. And if anyone is keeping up with the news out there that I'm watching in the past couple of years about AI, number one, Jensen Huang, the last couple of years, since ChatGPT rolled out, people got to know who he is and his company. The $1 trillion company, he talks about AI or artificial intelligence or your data is going to have national significance. And he talks about if you want to be a sovereign country, you better beef up your AI as national security. He's been saying that, he's drumming that in since 2 years ago. And we are talking about it now, not going into it in detail about national security. But really, I'm looking at the news, Alex, the last 6 months, China is actually recruiting back. We call it the talent flow back to China. If you look at a lot of Chinese physicians, physicists, mathematicians, etc. They are flowing back to China. And if you look at it, carefully, China has an overarching national strategy, and the people work really hard over there. Chinese are Asians are hardworking, naturally hardworking people. And plus, if they have the sense of mission, they do not want their mission to fail. And plus, if they have an overarching national strategy, that's scary, right?
Right.
We're talking about the world is racing towards AI supremacy or AI superiority. So that's the upset of why it affects us. But also because we're a very small country like in Singapore, I don't think we have a role to play. So, Alex, why don't I throw the floor to you?
Yeah. I mean, looking at the video, I mean, this is the first time I'm seeing a video as well. I mean, for I'm to think about it. So, a couple of things that I think we should, I would want to address. Number one, right, the Americans, right, look like they see the chip war, right, as a zero-sum game, or the AI war as a zero-sum game. So the question here is it a zero-sum game? Right, zero-sum game means that somebody wins, somebody loses. But I would think that the Chinese don't really think of this as a zero-sum game, right? Mm-hmm. So again, I'll just leave it at that because I don't think we can actually have enough time even to talk about this, right? Because the chip war, there's many layers to it, right? It's not just the chip, right? We're also talking about power. We're talking about the energy, because if you don't have the power, you will not be able to power the data centers to power the chips, right? So it's a very, very long debate. I mean, you have Donald Trump coming out and say that you want to annex Greenland. Why does it want Greenland, right? Because they want the natural resources in one land in order to. So there's multifold, right? I don't think I highly respect Elon Musk because his single tweet, right, will shift the market. But to sort of answer what he thinks or what the Americans think, I think there's a book that is that I think is, I'll use the book to rebuttal. I won't say rebuttal. The book is actually called titled May the West. Let me think. Why the West Rule for Now. It's by Ian Morris, right? So it's a pretty thick book, right? Ian Morris.
Why the
West Rule for Now? Ian Morris.
For now.
Yeah, for now.
Yes,
why
I like the word just for now.
For now, right? For now, right? I mean, he's a historian, by the way, right? So he looks a lot of reasons, but simply to simply put, the West rules simply because of technological advancements and so on and so forth. So if you want to sort of get the answer, right, you can look at the ChatGPT and then figure out why I use the book. But
it's a very, very deep question that we will dive into it in another episode, but that's a good opening for the audience who are tuning in. If you're looking at us in Facebook or YouTube, please share and like, comment or email to me at Viki Esther Chang. Alex,
so let me finish. You don't mind? I mean, not just China. So there's another player that everybody seems to be ignoring right now, because I truly think that will happen, right? The polar, the axis, right, will not be in time to come, right? Simply because of just pure mass in terms of volume and size, right? We have India. So if and when India, the sleeping giant, comes on board, right? It will change the entire landscape too. So if you have China plus India, we're talking about 1.4 billion people, right? Times 2, that's 2.8 billion people. And that's more than a third of the world. So just these two alone will shift the entire game. So whether the West, in a way, like it or not, there will eventually be a polar shift. I think the only question here is when would it happen and how would it happen? I'm not saying this just because I'm Asian and all this. I think we really have to look at where the world and how the world is shifting.
And I like the way you put it. I mean, the axis has shifted, and I think shifting. But if you look at the news out there, that the top 4 American chip companies, they are all now, the CEOs, they are all run by Asians. I think the time for you has come, Alex.
Well, I'm doing my thing, so I don't think I want to get there. I mean, I'm not into corporate stuff, so perhaps I don't. Well, we'll see what happens.
Back to today, we are going to talk about AI and labor market, the economics of generative AI and inequality. I really want us to talk about that. How does AI exacerbate the inequality between haves and have-nots? And also, if we have the time, we're going to talk about AI and economic growth. But we left off 2 weeks ago, Alex, we talked about economic shifts. And I like the point where Brad, we left off about are we able to, or regulations or economic models. We're still running on the Keynesian model right now, market mechanism. We'd like to know, you talked about taxation, GDPs, calculation of GDPs, for example. And in 2017, Elon Musk talked about universal income for people. And he talks about jobs are probably going to be of less significance to a lot of people. And there's a lot of talk right now about jobs that probably does not define you as a person anymore. We got to shift away from you becoming a doctor, you becoming a teacher, the vocation that defines you as a person. We talked about that, and we ended off from there last time in episode 2 of AI and humanity. Alex, let's talk about today. We want to talk about AI and labor market. I think you just came back from a public event. Tell us about what you said there about AI and skills and labor.
Well, that talk was pretty good. I really enjoyed it because I've been to many talks in many places, right? So, but this time round it was special because it was for students. I mean, for graduating students, it was a trade fair basically. I mean, talk about skills and how how AI is going to impact the next generation of leaders, the students who are coming out into the world. And it was very special, very special, because my daughter was in the audience. right. So I mean, this is like,
Daddy.
I can't screw this up, right? So quite literally, I'm sort of speaking to my daughter, and I've got to give proper advice, right? So I mean, I'm a little bit nervous, you that is never cool, right? That is never cool when you're talking, but you're on the stage as a
That
different
is never
person.
cool.
Yeah, so I thought it was pretty exciting, but I think at the end of the I would just say the last thing that I said right at the end. So my parting thoughts was, in order to really succeed in the AI economy,
Yep.
I think the individual, the person, have to go analog. Why
Tell
is my
us.
have to
Tell
go?
us.
The reason is very simple, because yes, you need the AI tools. You need to know the tools, right? So imagine you're going into a job. So the first problem that you will face is you need to go through the AI gatekeeper, the HR AI gatekeeper, right?
Yeah.
So your resume better be
Yeah.
able to beat that system to go through in order to go through the next level.
So
I
what
think
does the analog mean here?
I'm coming to that, right? So the next step is, chances are you probably meet a person. It may even right now the interview is done by AI, perhaps, with the HR. So you have to go through that HR process. So you need the necessary skills for the AI skills to get past the AI check, the bot, right, that looks at your resume, and you also perhaps need to nail the interview process. So all these are being said, right? All these are, there are hundreds and hundreds of sites and out there and tools to enable you to do that. But eventually, chances are you will meet your boss, right? Your boss, assuming it's me, right? So I'm not just going to interview you. I'll probably interview 3 or 4 other person. So the question here is, by the time it reaches me, I'm not going to I'm not going to be looking at your grades. I'm not going to be looking at your results of what you can do, right? What I will be looking for is evidence of
Evidence.
what are you unique? What makes you you? What is your superpower?
What's your
Right?
superpower? I like that.
Yeah, sure, right? I mean, you got to know that person's superpower, and that person's superpower, very usually, I would say, is because you have already cleared all the technical skills and all this, right? Your superpower will be something analog, meaning that imagine you if you're into a skill, something that you really like doing. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what you like doing. Like, say for example, me, right? I last year I've been running, right? I did 1,000 kilometers. That alone will also means that I ran 1,000 kilometers. That means that I'm, number one, I'm not crazy, but I'm pretty healthy, right? But it also means I'm determined. I want to do something. I want to achieve something. And if you look at the books behind me, I read. It's one of those things that I do. I've got a couple of hundred books. Pretty analog. The record player you see, I'm very AI, but I'm also very analog. But I think is what those analog things that make you you. So I think the human will always be looking for that. The connection between two persons, right, is always analog. And that's the reason why I said,
Yeah, yeah. Alex, I think we've talked about this before because, I enjoy talking to the AI bot right now, like, the Grok. And the thing about Grok is so different from ChatGPT because it's almost human. When you try to type in something into ChatGPT, yes, it's been proven that it gives wonderful answers, responses, and of course now you've got Gemini, etc.
oh, I
But
like
you're still looking at typing it, and you're still feeling that it is a blank wall. You got a feeling that it's a blank wall. But with Grok, it's totally different experience I have.
it's
It's
got a bit
almost
of
like
personality, right?
it's almost spiritual. It's almost like you are talking to something that is in existence, and it's pretty scary because I do enjoy that. I think in the last podcast I did mention that it was able to have a conversation with me about paintings and art, and even Shakespeare and poetry, etc., and even music. Um, and that is something that I don't find the kind of connection with a bot like Chat GPT or even Gemini, you really feel different. You really feel that with Grok, you go into a space, and that's pretty scary. Of course, now you want to, we did talk about that, the bots could replace relationships. I don't know. You did talk about the analogs, and I totally agree with you that human connection is irreplaceable. You do need to have that. But there are new thoughts that comes out that says that, hey, people are intrigued to have a bot lover, a bot relationship. I told you, and I sent you some videos that Bloomberg Technology has dived into to talk about, people who actually subscribe to AI friendship, AI bots that created friendship and relationships, etc. That's pretty scary. And I'm not going into that, of course, because it goes into another whole load of communication, a whole lot of conversation. But I want to talk about today. You did mention that there is a major concern about people like myself about how AI will impact labor. And we talked about how AI is already replacing some jobs at the banks and also taking over jobs at fintech, even in medical hospitals, etc. Tell us, what's the potential in creating new kinds of jobs, and how fast can we do that? And how fast that imagined reality will actually distill to real life?
I want to talk a little bit and take ourselves a little bit higher, right? So I think you just mentioned about John Maynard Keynes. So he is the father of modern macroeconomics, right? So well, you don't really need to know what he says, right? If you don't, right? But essentially, basically, he actually said that we cannot leave things to the invisible hand. So invisible hand is the so-called the free market thinker. So, but he said no, we cannot let that happen. With the government, he actually challenges what we call the classical economics, right? So he advocates government spending and lower interest rates to stimulate demand and during recessions and so on and so forth. Does that sound familiar? It does, right?
You need to have policies, of course.
Because these are what the governments are still doing, right? After 70, 80 years of he first published his famous paper, The General Theory of Employment and Interest and Money, right? So that is in the 1930s, right? But I want to draw something from what he wrote, a very simple paper. I think it was maybe 6-7 pages long, very obscure, quite obscure, right? The paper is called Economic Possibilities for Our Grandchildren. It was written in 1930, right? So and he had a prediction. I had sort of like the prediction. He had a prediction. He said in 100 years, right? He predicted that the technological advancements will be so advanced. We will be so advanced that we will solve the problem of scarcity. I mean, in the economic terms, scarcity means that we have to work in order to feed us, right? Because we're scarce.
Yeah, economics is based on scarcity, of course, demand and supply.
Yeah, so we're scarce.
That's the hypothesis.
Yeah, so
the presupposition, I should say.
Yeah, so that's the reason why we work, right? We work to get to feed ourselves. So that's the problem of scarcity. And by 2030, which is 5 years from now, prediction 100 years from 1930, that we will solve the problem of scarcity. And he predicted that our work day will be reduced to 3 hour shifts in a day. So it means 3-hour day, which in a week is 15-hour week, right? Versus say 38, 40 or 44-hour week, wherever we are in the world, right? So we should be working 15 hours, but we're not.
I love that.
Funny we're not, because it's look, there is I won't say the problem with it is the reason why we're still working is because despite of tremendous, imagine 1930, tremendous technological advancement, tremendous amount of things that has enabled us to do more with less, but yet it seems that we're doing more and more, right?
Yeah.
We have more people in the world right now from 1930. Right now, I think from 1930, I think the population maybe 2 billion. Now we're actually quadruple, right, to 8 billion. So it's crazy.
And I just want to stop you right there. The viewers or listeners who are with us, and I do see the numbers going. People are looking at us right now. But Singaporeans, right? And the rest of the world who does not know Singapore, we work like crazy. We are slaves to our work. We're slaves to that 3 a.m. phone call. We're slaves to the 3 a.m. email or the 3 a.m. Text message that we climb out from the bed. We try to reply to your colleague or your boss or your customer. We are so obsessed with work, Alex. It's so ingrained in our value that we respond instantaneously. And that is so much in us. I mean, of course, because it was nation building, we are the workers that actually powered nation building, right? I mean, my fathers and ourselves now in this generation, the last 2 generations, last 3 generations have actually powered the success of Singapore with, of course, good leadership and good policies in place. And thanks to our forefathers, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, who is so well respected in the world there. Just that note, Alex, I think we work like 150 hours per week.
Well, I hope you're not. I'm not. I don't work 150 hours a week. And perhaps in my position, I could say no to certain things. So the real power to leadership, right, is not saying yes. Because saying yes is so easy, right? The real power comes from saying no. So I guess when you have option to say no, you just. But I guess I can understand where you're coming from, because very often when a superior or your boss and come and tell you, hey, can you do this, can you do that?
No, it's such a psychic thing. It's like, oh, you got to respond.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't even sleep. It's almost like owing someone $1. You got to clear all your debts, But
I want to go back to this Keynes. I mean, his prediction, right? And I read this a long time ago. I know this this paper that he wrote a long time ago, and this sort of came back, right? And I was just looking at to see how this AI can how a paper written almost 100 years ago is able to predict what we are looking at today, right? So obviously, I think one of the key things you mentioned is a technological. We'll call it technological unemployment, right? It's really going to amplify
technological unemployment.
Technological unemployment, meaning the reason is because technological advances, technically speaking, should increase our productivity, right? And I think for the first time in mankind's history, if we are able to come produce something, we talk about singularity, right? If you're better than men, if we achieve singularity in various forms, it will be able to replace men. So when you are able to replace men, that means you're unemployed, right? So imagine the robot is able to take over your work. Then question is, what are you going to do? So that is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? I would think that it could be both, because if you do not know what you're going to do with your own free time, then you're looking for trouble. That's trouble, right? So of course, there's many things that which leads to the second issue that we need to talk about, which is the problem of leisure, meaning that you have free time. Then what are you going to do with it? Look, I think COVID, and I really think COVID has given us a lesson. So I don't know about you, but during COVID, there were pockets of free time, and we went out, and I think people who are trapped, whatever, and you're sick of being at home and not knowing exactly what to do, right? We start picking up hobbies. I mean, Viki, during COVID, do you sort of pick up any hobbies, or you start doing something new?
Yeah, I start doing the fried rice.
Fried rice?
Fried rice. Yeah, fried rice cooking. Yes.
Right.
You start looking at the YouTube, right? That's why the YouTube have gone up. And during the pandemic, it was when everyone started to have the podcast.
Yeah. Right. So look, I mean, we humans are pretty good also in trying to, because we're bored, right? We're good in trying to do something else, right? And that's not work. So if you think about it, that is a good thing, isn't it? Right? So we as humans will be able to find stuff. So Now going back into work, right? So we have a lot of employers demanding that you come back to work in the office 5 days a week, and people are running and say, oh man, I don't want to go back to work. The reason is very simple, right? The reason is very simple. It's simply because they have already experienced, having that freedom to sort of, you have control of your time during work. So I think, but there's still continue to be a struggle. The reason is, again, because I think we're still in a generation that we find purpose in work. Meaning
It
that
kind
your
of like
life,
that defines us. Yeah.
it defines us. So it becomes the problem if you the persona, take away work. Very often it takes away the purpose of you, the person, right? And I think we will lead to a generation that's sort of lost souls if you do not have work.
I like to expand on that. That we talked about that. The last 2 episodes, even before that. We need to find the new meaning of existence.
But these are
And there is already a lot of talks right now by different schools of thought about we should not be defined by our profession or our vocation. If you're a doctor, your whole life you are a medical doctor, you try to like study for the last 25 years and then you become a doctor. But my question is the lack of time. This transition period is scary, right? For a person like me, probably it has less impact because I have already found my meaning of existence in my faith in the things that I do beyond my work. I don't let the work define me. Yes, I'm an educator, I'm a writer, but I always try to search for new things because I'm always wanting to find out what's the next thing that I could be good at. But
let me go back and take another perspective.
Do that because it's such a continuous search for meaning of life.
Yeah, no. So you're looking at it from a personal perspective. Let me tell you, if let's say I am looking from the economic perspective, right?
Tell us.
Then I look at you and I see you doing whatever you do, right? I mean, your hobbies, cooking fried rice and all this. So I would say, hey, by the way, the rationale that you're not very productive, I know you're doing your own stuff. From an economic perspective, you're not productive. So I need you from an economic perspective. I mean, from the government or from whatever, from a high level, on a macro level, we start looking at you as the individual. If you're only working 3 hours a week, then you're not productive. So why? So it goes back to economics, right? Economics, the only way for current economics to work, right, in terms of the GDP, is output per person, per capita.
Yeah.
Right? So
I think we got to the crux of the issue. How do you calculate GDP and productivity from now?
Yeah. So if you only work 3 hours a week, I would say that you're not the most productive person.
Yeah.
So
How do we calculate that?
Maybe I don't want you in my country. I want somebody else in my country that works 8 hours a week, right?
Yeah.
So I think there is a very fundamental shift in terms of, I think, economics. We need to rethink, right? In terms of productivity, in terms of how we calculate certain, for even our GDP, GNP, and all these things, right? In terms to come, we still have not moved off from whatever economics that we have. Yeah, there are new economic theories coming out, but because right now, I think AI potentially can replace us humans.
Yeah.
In terms of economic output.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't, if let's say you replace us, then how are you going to measure your fried
productivity?
rice?
Yeah, my fried rice.
How are you going to calculate that, right? You can't put that in
Right.
GDP. You can't,
Yeah.
right? So you, unless you're at Bhutan and then you have your happiness index.
I was thinking about that while you're saying, yes, the happiness index. So I think we hit the nail on the head about the whole conversation. Even the Elon Musk video that I just brought out. Yes, we're talking about the race towards being the AI superpower, because if you are the AI superpower, you become the superpower of the world.
Yep.
And I think in Singapore, I don't think we qualify to be in that race because we're too small to talk about. But I do think that there is a shift in the economic model that the world has to come to terms of how do we calculate GDP and then taxation, right? And then I mean we're talking about when I studied tax in the university because I've got a degree in accountancy and finance. You've got a taxation. That's not a lot, of course, but now, I mean, Singapore is trying to simplify taxation. We talked about a lot of things about tax relief. I mean, it seems that everything has got to change fundamentally, and how long is it going to take? That's a big question. How can we keep up with that change that is so fast? And we're talking about nanosecond changes in the AI landscape, the world landscape.
Yeah. So I think right now we're facing I think we already talked about the technological unemployment. We talk about the problem with leisure because this is the problem, because if you don't have a purpose and you just can't be lying down, right? You got to do something.
But I would like to lie at the beach.
But not all the time, not every day for 5 hours, 6 hours a day. I mean, we got to get your ass off and get you working.
You never know, because if you're in Europe and you're in one of the French provinces, you lie there for 6 hours per day for the whole of the summer.
Yeah, right. But which also means, right? If you look at all these, I think there should be a return of values.
Meaning
the values of what does it mean to exist even, right? What is life, right? If technology, so like I said, obviously we know that AI is gonna change things and jobs and all these things, right? But it also gives us, I think, a very good opportunity to reevaluate what really life is. And again, if you do that, then economics will change too. Right, we're also talking about the moral, the social change that is going to be very, very essential, and it will run deep. Why it run deep? Because it sounds like you're talking to the AI, and your chatbot is starting to become a boyfriend. Is that right?
I'm not ruling that out, because you can actually impute a voice into the AI, right? It can choose the character and the personality. Alex, I think you hit the nail, and we hit the nail on the head when the world is just talking about AI, how it's going to change. I think economic models have to change. GDP calculation have to change. Productivity calculation have to change, and also leisure, and also the meaning of existence. You're right to say that at a certain point in economics, there is a backward bending supply curve. Remember? I'm not quite sure if you do remember that. It's about no matter how much you are paid, right? It seems that you will go backwards because you don't want to be productive. You don't want to work anymore. As your salary increases, as the price increases, that's called the backward bending S-curve.
Basically what it means is you had enough, right? When you had enough, no matter how much you pay me, I'm not gonna do it. Right. So that is when you have, and again, it's true. You cannot be richer than a person who has enough, right? You can't be richer than the guy who say, I'm richer than you, so what? I've enough, I don't care. Right? You can't be richer than the guy who has enough. But it comes back to the biggest problem that we will need to, I would say the governments need to solve, is really about the distribution of wealth.
Distribution. Tell us about this inequality.
Right.
How does AI exacerbate the difference between the haves and the have-nots?
So actually, it's the same. Imagine today, if I tell you the guy who has internet and the guy who doesn't have internet, is there a divide? Absolutely, there's a divide. Right? So I mean, it's really, so AI is going to be a resource. It's going to be a tool, right? Is if you have it or you don't have it. It's the same. Going back down to, if you don't have a mobile phone today, you're almost crippled, right? The reason is because all the services are done through the mobile phone. So it's like they assume that you're going to have it.
That's
So,
the machine already.
yeah, and it's also the same, right? AI is a tool that they will assume that you're going to have it in future, right? So I think and it will create that particular divide. But I'm not so sure that's a zero-sum game, because I also think that it's going to be a great leveler, meaning that economic leveler, that that the tool is going to be so good that you will be able to lift people up from the lower strata of society. And
I do think that I mean, yes, we were talking about the trade-offs of machines taking over human. There is the other side, like in Africa, they're really talking about these smart machines are already adding so much into productivity, into the development in African countries. Because I was looking at WEF, World Economic Forum, the interviews, and they did show that some of these smart machines or intelligent machines have already lifted up the economy. I mean, there are I should say there is a fragmentation of direction, a very swift, accelerated growth in certain areas, and certain areas is dampening. So there is this, like we say, tectonic realignment of economies and growth, and people's realization and skills, education, etc.
yeah, so and I don't know who is in the audience watching, right? If you are in a position of any sort of influence, I hope that you actually go and read the paper that I'm talking about. Let me give you the title again, right? It's the economic possibilities of our grandchildren.
Economic possibilities of our grandchildren.
Right. John Keynes.
Yeah.
So written in 1930. Because if you do a correlation of what he wrote and what is happening with the world today, there's the the lessons are all there. Right? The lessons are all there. It's really about, I mean, if you look at it from a government intervention policy perspective, right? It's really about doing some retraining, maybe social safety nets, and it's really about readjusting and making sure that that the gap, the wealth gap, right, the distribution narrows. Of course,
Okay.
done.
Yeah, and now we're talking about this, Alex. Let's make this digestible to the man in the street, because this could be just like schools of thought. We are talking about air right now, what air can do, what CO2 can do. But let's talk about it from the point of view about an individual or a company. How do we deploy? We talked about that before, like deploying data, analyzing data for some small companies. But how do you deploy AI for companies that need to reskill the whole workforce, and it needs a lot of investment and time, interest, and a lot of financial investments. How do we keep up with that?
I agree, and I also disagree.
Yeah.
Right, because you talk about financial, investments and all these things.
Yeah.
So we, let's say for example, what we do. I mean, we are video space. I mean, our core business is really about discovery, meaning that we'll extract data from videos and we try to understand it, right? So the first of all, the reason why it sort of exists today is simply because nothing else could sort of do this, right? We couldn't search videos, so that's the reason why. But how we do it is we have to use 30 different AIs in order to extract the data. 30 different, right? So is when we first started, it was a bit crazy. The reason why is because it can never be done by human. It's not possible because of the volume of videos that's out there. It's impossible, right? So we actually have to use a model to squeeze 30 different AIs into a single stream and whatever not. Then again, we're a small company. Then we have 2023, Gen AI came about, right? Then it's like, holy crap, Gen AI. Then we sort of try to figure out, okay, how can we do a LLM? Can we even attempt to do that? Then obviously we inquire about NVIDIA chips. We said, oh my God, the wait list is in order to get the NVIDIA chips, you have to wait more than a year.
Yeah.
You have to wait more than a year. It's the wait list is crazy, right?
Wow.
And not only that, but when they, as a small company, you have to buy in the hundreds, because in order to train language models, is a huge investment. So we sort of decided that there's no way that we can actually come up with an LLM ourselves. So the only ones that can do it and can do this, and if you look at it today in the landscape, they're the countries. And of course, the big guys with the Microsoft, you have the Googles of the world, right? You have the OpenAI, right? And they spend
a very oligopolistic
yeah. So only the big guys.
landscape.
So I think for us, the question here would be, how can we leverage on this kind of technology? So I think in a certain way, you have to be a bit smart, right? So recently, I posted on my LinkedIn profile I use image to video generation by AliCloud, and the outcome is always, oh my God, right? It's so detailed. So the question here is, how are we going to use this to disrupt an industry, right? So we're still trying to figure it out. But I think there are some creative industries you better watch out, right? Because the tech stack that's coming out is going to be incredible. So my point here is this, right? Whatever industry that you're at, you have to put your imagination to use and imagine, right, what and how AI is going to affect you. It's the same with my daughter as well, right? So this is the real conversation. So she wants to be a data analyst. So I said, in 5 years' time, so I said, no, you shouldn't be a data analyst. She was like, but this is what I like to do. I said, yeah, sure. But the problem here in 5 years' time, anything that has to do with large data set, structured data, right? And you need to be able to analyze a large scale. AI is going to be
It's all done by robots.
Yeah, it's done by AI, right? The human can't do this.
I mean, we can't turn back the clock. It's almost like, I mean, to me, it just means that you're not going to use your hands to wash your clothes anymore. You're just going to throw into the washing machine, and time is not going to change anything, because we have moved away from hand washing your clothes, right?
Right.
So that's how the world is going to like just like strain and search forward.
So, look, I think more importantly, right, I don't know about you, but what I'm doing right now, if you tell me 5 years ago I'll be doing this, I say I can't imagine.
Wow.
Right? So whatever job that we're going to do in future, in like 5 years, 10 years, it doesn't exist now. So the question here is, how are we, right, whether you're a worker or whether you're a business, a small or large enterprise, you really seriously have to really rethink about how this is going to affect you economically, because we're talking about economy, right? At the micro level and also at the macro level, because there are certain things you cannot change. Meaning, because if the wave is going to come,
just a moment. Let's say I do own a business, and you're telling me, Viki, imagine using your wildest imagination. Think about implementing AI into your business systems. And I'm thinking that, okay, I don't know what you're saying, Alex, because number one, I can't see CO2, I can't see O2. It's in the air. It's almost like you telling me, or my grandmother, you telling my grandmother that the whole world is made up of atoms and molecules. You can't see it. So how do you implement that? So that's my question. So back to something that is so realistic, Alex. Singapore, we're going to deploy funds into companies. Do we have enough of AI experts going into the marketplace? It's almost like China, right? You're looking into all these YouTube channels that, it shows that China is actually deploying robots in many, many, many different facets of businesses in every part of businesses. Now, tell me, Alex, do we have enough of people to teach the companies Viki, this is how molecules work. And this is how catalysts work. You need to add this and this and this and into boom, and then the magic happens. So do we have enough of that catching up to the transformation of businesses?
Right. I think I'll go back to the talk last week, right? And they were concerned. The title was something like AI jobs, right? I can't remember, but I disagree with it.
Yeah.
I mean, what does it mean to have an AI job?
Yeah.
Because my argument would be every job will involve AI in future. Every job. So there's no such thing as AI job. The only question here will be, are you directly working on AI or with AI? On AI means that you have to develop a system, maybe you work with robotics or mechatronics and that kind of thing, right? So, or you can train an LLM or you be a developer. So this is on AI, right?
Yeah.
But chances are a large part will be working with AI. So AI could be your colleague, right? And we talk about that. If you're working with AI, so the question here would be you within the industry. So the industrial knowledge is a lot more important. I'll give you an example. So you're a lecturer, right? I mean, you do your teaching. So I think one of those things that if I tell you that I by the way, we sort of, maybe I should consult you. We're trying to do a launch within the education system in some of our packages. We haven't really launched it yet. Right? Maybe I should have a word with you on the side, right? But the idea here would be to, I would say replace you, but I can do a hybrid, meaning that let's say your role as an educator will not be focused on delivery anymore. Your focus will be to answer questions. Meaning, the delivery part is blah blah blah, okay, 1 + 1 = 2, whatever, right? So that the delivery part can be done using whether it's videos or whether it's potentially I'm talking about in
the bots. The bots.
Bot, right?
Teaching bots.
Because it's normally one way. But what really valuable for a real person, I think the real person in terms of the value would really be when you ask a certain question and a person answers, right? Because that part is the real value of the educator. At least that's what.
Or the student demands that I want to talk to a human and not a bot.
Yeah. So learning can be done anytime. I mean, the point about going to school and going to a certain time, a certain space. Of course, again, the question here would be the schools would say, "Oh, you gotta have discipline." Yeah, yes, I agree. Right. So, but that's another matter altogether. I'm talking about delivery. Potentially could be a hybrid, right? Of course, you can do your assessments and things like that. Even assessments today can be done by AI bot, right? So the question again, going back, how do you assess one person? So the way I see this again would be, look, I mean, this is education opportunity, and I'm not like. I'm not going to replace you, Viki, right? But what I'm saying is I'm going to work with you. So this can only come about by having a good understanding of the industry and of the process in terms of the pedagogy and in terms of.
So there is still this transition period before we fully automate teaching.
Yeah, but for you, then you also have to recognize. They say, "Oh my God," level, right? Oh my God,
Yes.
This Alex guy is going to replace me. But I'm saying, no, work with me, right? So you can make you or your institution a better education institute. That's what I'm trying to say, right? Because it's about delivery, it's about discovery, it's about, and the way I say it would be about igniting curiosity.
Can I say that it's almost like getting this ISO 9000 or ISO 14000 specialists coming in to look at the whole business system and look at each of this system and each of these specific parts to see where we can use that part and synergize that with AI.
Sure.
So that would take time, right? And that would take investment, and that would take vested interest and
But can you afford not to do it? Can you afford not to do it? Because somebody else will do it. No, again, the question
yeah,
is
yeah.
not. The question is not just at a personal level, but also at institutional level, but also at the educational ecosystem level.
Ecosystem.
Yeah,
That's
it's the
right. I
entire.
think we got
Yeah,
that.
it's the entire
The
ecosystem level.
AI ecosystem. Okay, I've got, before we go off and we come back tomorrow, because we're already like 55 minutes into the show.
I didn't
I
even
like
realize.
to, yeah, I mean, this is so deep because I really want to continue the conversation. I hope that you can come back tomorrow. And if there is time, we will come back on Thursday because I really wanted to make up for any lost time. But I think let's wrap up with this. Economics of generative AI. I still can't wrap my head around what is AI and what is generative AI, and then we are now talking about economics of generative AI.
I think at the current stage of this Gen AI is transitional. We have not even seen the real potential, right?
Wow.
We have not even seen the real potential, and we are transitional.
Tell me.
The reason why I believe this is transitional is because if you look at LLMs, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it's pretty smart. It looks pretty smart, but actually, if you really think and understand how it works, it's just guess the next word, I mean, to put it down.
Yeah, I've seen
It's
the
just
diagrams.
right?
Yeah.
Guess the next word, and it's doing a damn good job at it. So I
Linking up
mentioned
everything.
that,
Yeah. Spidering.
Moreover, Manus has Monica AI, right, in China, has come up with that was last week. Yeah, last week,
Yes.
with
So scary, right?
and all this. That I think is fantastic, but they were very smart in using the master-slave model, meaning that you have a master and then you have a whole bunch of slaves, right? Master tells you, I've got to do this, give me a bunch of, and you tell multiple slaves, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. That's basically what it does, right? One leader and tell master servant a relationship, and it goes and then eventually build up the whole thing and then deliver to you.
Yeah.
Fantastic, but it's still not the. I think it's that is the next step. Yeah, transitional. But I'm not even sure whether that's in 5 years down the road when we have the quantum and all these things come into place. Whatever we're seeing now is only transitional. So let's leave with a fun, going back to a prediction, right? I think I want to do this prediction. So in 22, I want to put this down on record, right?
Yeah.
Two things. One would be the rise of China, right? People call it the rise of China in the next 12 to 18 months. I've said this before, 12 to 18 months.
Wow.
If you look at it from DeepSeek, Ali Cloud made the announcement, right?
Yeah.
We have Kimi, now we have Monica, and making announcements. We have 4,
Wow.
right? In the last, I've already said that, right? I think in January or February, that in the next 12 to 18 months, you will see an entire stream of Chinese AI coming out. And each one of them will blow your mind in different ways, right?
And you are totally right. Ladies and gentlemen, come back. We're almost into the 60th minute of the show. This is so intense, Alex. We should have this conversation on and on. Going back to the opening video that I opened the show with, the interview of Elon Musk by Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is the 2016 presidential candidate in the US. This race to be the AI superpower, not only in terms of superpower, but also in terms of finance, that is actually jolting the world order already. In America, we're talking about America going bankrupt, and a lot of first world countries going bankrupt by Ray Dalio, one of the people I follow very closely. He was really talking about all these first world countries, developed countries, going into the red because their governments are going bankrupt, because they're in debt, in such big debt. Plus, the point about technological advances through smart machines like AI. This is already shifting world order, Alex. If we're going to talk about the AI world order, then I think there is such a huge chance that China is going to emerge as the new superpower, and that is not unimaginable, because if you look at the news that I've said earlier on, like 60 minutes ago, they are already recruiting back all the best minds from the world to go back to China to build back the country. And we should not undermine the will of a country that has this political will. We can stop at there, but I think that it suffices to let all the viewers and listeners know that we are into a very deep, serious conversation between Alex Chang and myself, Viki Esther Chang. And we also talked about all these chip companies are all headed by Asians now.
Yeah. So going back to making the last prediction, right? 2045, I would say that the calculation for current economics of calculation of per GDP per capita,
Yep.
will not be sufficient anymore, right? So there will be another GDP called GDP per robot capita. It will be necessary, right? Because number one, I mentioned, humans maybe in 2045 will not really work anymore. If there's such a thing called universal income and all this, maybe will not work anymore. And the other thing that necessitates this, that makes this happen, will make this happen, is that means all robots has to be registered and identified, given an identity, perhaps
The ID.
perhaps just like humans, right? So you will have, because humans don't work anymore, then it does not make sense to have that per capita GDP per capita, because humans don't work anymore, right?
Yeah, I like the idea.
Right? And the GDP and the real workers are actually the robots, right? So they should have that replacement for, well, maybe not replacement, but together, one is GDP per human capita and one GDP per robot capita. Maybe in 2025 that will happen. Let's put it out.
The thing is that, Alex, this is not out of this world concept. The thing is that we have to go down to the reality of the shifts, the rug that is being pulled below us, but rather we want to see it as something that can be managed by human, that we can put our smart minds together, humanitarians like myself, smart scientists like yourselves, to come together to talk about what should happen and what can happen and what are the possibilities, that we should redefine the world. We know that the world order is changing right now, financial wise and also technological advancement wise, and we can actually project into the world. I mean, looking at the video, Elon Musk is actually quite worried. If you look at his reaction, it says that whoever controls that supply chain, which is the chips, they will control AI and they will control the world. That's in my words, paraphrasing.
Well, I mean, look, maybe that what he says is true, right? So, but if you, it's also the same thing. If you say the countries who control oil, right, will control the next level of transportation. Perhaps that's true, but EVs are coming up, right? So you don't really need that much oil right now. Of course, you still need.
There will be shifts and shifts and shifts.
Yeah, there will be shifts, right? And the next thing the next thing that if countries are starting to work on is nuclear fusion, right? If that happens, that is going to be going to be huge too. So, and that will also mean we don't need that much oil anymore. So I think question here would be, we need a convergence of all these industries and technologies.
All these forces.
For that, what I think the singularity to really happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I like to thank you so much, Alex. We are 60 minutes into the show. The thing is that we have to dive deep. And I think we are the only voice out there who wants to make this known to the general public, that we should have a voice in determining our future as humanity. And anyone who is watching or listening in, join us in our podcast. I would like to have you join us if you have a thought. If you're looking at us from the US, do join us also. In our next few shows, Alex Chang and myself, Viki Esther Chang from Singapore, we would like to make a contribution to this conversation in the world. So Alex, we will meet again tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, come back tomorrow at 9 p.m. Singapore time, Wednesday, which is American Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m., and that's New York Eastern Standard Time. Alex, would you like to say goodbye in the next 10 seconds?
Goodbye. Tomorrow is about war.
Oh, I shouldn't be clapping.
You should have a good understanding.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is about war.
So should we talk about whether AI is going to dominate the human race, or whether we're going to talk about countries using AI as the military force to dominate other countries?
It will. I mean, it's really about the thing about this is really about whether is it economics or whether is it the military or whether is it psychological. It's about dominance, right? So war in itself is a zero-sum game, whereas other things may not be a zero-sum game. The soft power and all this may not be zero-sum, but war itself is zero-sum. So I think this is where
I'm so eager to hear you and to have this conversation. To be put out there in the digital universe. As I've always said, the world has actually flattened this way and flattened this way to a point and signal. And what we are talking about is just cosmic rays. And we're just sending this cosmic rays to the world. And anyone who just clicking onto Facebook right now, they're just clicking into our conversation. So that's the world that was unimaginable in my mother's time, right, Alex? So we come back tomorrow, very, very exciting times. Yes, we started off with something that sounds like it's very ominous, but it also heralds a new golden age for mankind. So come back to our show tomorrow, the Platinum Platform, and talk about life in all podcast catchers. Myself, Viki Esther Chang from Singapore, signing off and coming back to you, ladies and gentlemen. Please stick with us tomorrow and the next few weeks with Alex Chan. Alex.
Bye.